everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Thank you. That sounds like a series, Fantastic Friday, but thanks for joining me. Today I'm doing an unboxing. I'm going to unbox my monthly hero. This is the January 2018 card kit. And I'm also going to do part 1 of the 10 cards 1 kit. We'll do the first 5 cards today. This was a little freebie that came in the kit, and I love freebies. Then you get a thank you little postcard. Let's just take a look at see what comes in the kit. Okay, this is a Valentine's Day theme kit. Love this. Lots of pinks and purples and reds, and I had so much fun making my first 5 cards. Now, we're just going to pull everything out and take a look what's in this goodie bag here. Ooh, this is pink Prisma embossing powder. Really pretty, soft, pale pink embossing powder, and it has glitter accents, but the glitter in it is not overpowering. It's very subtle, very pretty. And you get 3 specialty cardstocks. These have a real pretty pearl sheen to them. You get a lavender, a very pale pink, and then like a real soft pink. And then you get 2 specialty pattern papers. Now these are almost like handmade paper that are so thick, but they're very pretty. The very top one here has gold accents, which is really nice. You get 4 ink cubes, and I grabbed a piece of scratch paper. We're going to see the colors. This one is mulled wine. Then we have a navy, and then we have a red royal, and then the last one is passion flower. Real pretty soft purple. So those are the ink cubes that come in the kit. Real pretty. Okay, next we get a bag of sequins. Love these. A lot of pinks and iridescence, and every once in a while there'll be a little bit of a iridescent, like a shimmer flake in there, which was really nice accent, especially for shaker cards. I thought that was really pretty. So that was your sequin mix. Now let's just take a look at our stamp set. The stamp set comes wrapped in a real pretty pale pink ribbon. Love that. Okay. What I loved about the stamp set is the layering stamp set. And so there's a very large love sentiment on there. And it's a layering one, which is really nice. And so let's take a look at what it looks like. Okay. So there's your love, and then there's a layer, and then there's the and then you get the layer for the and also. You get a little corner bracket, and then you get a few little sentiments that are interchangeable that will complete a real pretty sentiment, and I really like that about the stamp set. Next you get your dies. Now the dies, you get a heart, one of the little lacy corners, and then you get a little embellishment, and then a large and sign that will cut out the center and then also the outside. So that's everything that came in the kit, and we're already starting with card number 1. Now I cut out a panel for card 1. The panel size is 4 by 5 1/4, and then the square center is 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. I just use a square die to cut out a window. Now we're going to jump in and stamp our sentiment. For this one, I chose friendship is love, and I just want to stamp friendship and is with my VersaFine ink. I'm going to go ahead and close the door of my MISTI, and then I'm going to go in with the red royal ink cube that came in the kit and stamp the word love. So my sentiment will say friendship is love. And there we have it. Now I'm going to make a shaker card with this very first card, and so what I'm going to do is add a piece of acetate behind my window, and then I'm going to add foam tape all around that panel. Now I'm going to grab the sequins and fill that up. Now the foam tape that I use is on the thin side, but I like it that way because it doesn't add too much bulk, but even for shaker cards it kind of keeps the sequins stationary, and so for large window areas they don't fall, and I really like that. I kind of like them floating. So there's my shaker here. I just put a piece of scratch white cardstock behind it to create my panel there. For my card base, I'm using a standard A2 size card base, and I'm just going to adhere my shaker to the center of it. Lovely. Okay, now I'm going to use this this die here. It's beautiful but very intricate. I had to use my shim plate for my die cut machine for all of the dies in this set because they are so detailed and they're so pretty but very detailed. So the shim plate helps out a lot. Now, if you have spray adhesive, this would work great, but I didn't have any. And so what I'm doing here is taking my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and I'm running it on some scratch paper, and then I'm adding my die cut piece here to the glue, and then I'm going to add it directly to the acetate here. And it works out great for me. I did this all throughout the intricate dies that were in the set. And I'm just going to do it again, and then I'm going to place this one on the very top. And it's going to basically kind of line my shaker window, and I think it looks so elegant and so pretty. I love that. Okay, now just for a little bit more, I'm going to grab 3 different color sequins and add them right next to the sentiment. And that's it. That is card number 1. Very simple but very elegant card. And I have close-ups after each cards for you guys so you can see the detail. Okay, now we're going to move along to card number 2. Now card number 2, I'm going to use the pattern paper, and I already stamped the word love, but I used different inks. I used a gray and the mulled wine, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So we're going to do a redo. We're going to start all over. Now I'm grabbing the word love and placing it on a panel. Now this panel is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going in with an ink cube from my stash. This is Pale Tomato. And I found that this ink coordinated with the paper a lot nicer. I thought the gray would on the very first one I stamped, but it really didn't. It turned out horrible. I really didn't like it. But now for the second layer, I'm using a darker ink, and this one was the one that came in the kit. This is the mulled wine. And I'm going to stamp the second layer on the very top. And this love is so detailed and gorgeous. I love this. I think it turned out really pretty, and I like the colors of this one a lot better. The first one, well, see, the pattern paper does have gray in it, and I thought it would bring it out, but it really didn't. You can see here. But okay, so we're just going to finish up on our card. Now I'm taking the pattern paper and I trim down the strip here. This is about a 2-inch strip, and then I'm going to take the die that I used to cut out my panel and cut out the bottom portion of this pattern paper. That way I have stitching all the way around it. And then I have a piece of gold mirror paper from my stash. Now you don't have to use gold cardstock. You know, if you have a gold embossing powder, it would work just as fine, or even a gold washi tape would work really great for this effect. But I'm just adding a thin strip to the very top. I really want to bring out the gold that's in that pattern paper. It's really pretty. So I'm just trimming off the excess here. And then to bring down some of that white from the very top, I have some white jute cord. It's pretty thin stuff, so I'm going to double it up, and I'm just going to wrap it around this panel here and tie a bow to the left. And that way it kind of just ties everything together, I think. I'm going to trim off the tails of my twine, and then I'm going to flip this over and add some foam tape behind here. This is going to go on the very bottom of my panel. Lovely. Okay. Now I'm going to add foam tape behind here and lift this up and add that to my white card base. Again, this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch standard A2 size top folding card base. Place that right in the center. I think that looks so pretty. Now I added 3 of the little heart sequins, and then to bring in the gold to the top area, this is honey gold Nuvo crystal drops. I added a few drops of gold all around the love sentiment, and then the hearts had little holes in them. So to cover up those holes in the sequins, I added some little dots of gold on the hearts as well. But that's it, card number 2. Okay, for card number 3, I cut out a panel. Now this panel is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4, and then I also cut out a smaller one that is 2 inches by 4 3/4. Now I did take my stitched rectangle die and cut that out. That way my panel has stitching on the very top and on the very bottom. It just kind of makes it flow a little bit better. Now next I'm taking this corner little scroll, this real pretty stamp here, and I'm using my VersaFine ink, and I want to stamp it 3 times. Well, actually stamp it 6 times. I want to create squares with this. So I'm stamping one on the bottom, and I'm going to stamp it again on the very top, and then I'm going to space it so it's evenly spaced right in the middle. That way my squares are spaced evenly. And then I'm going to flip it around and do it again. Now the nice thing about this stamp here is there's little dots on the very end of the corners, so you just line the dots up and it makes a very perfect square. And it was easy. Actually, I kind of messed up. I needed to stamp a few times over again, and it was easy to line back up, so those dots helped out a lot. Okay, once we have that done, I'm going to emboss this. I'm going to add some of the Simon Says Stamp Ultrafine Black embossing powder. I think this is going to add a little bit of richness to that black ink, and then it also adds a little bit of depth, I think. So I just melted that embossing powder, and then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and trim off the excess. Now we don't need any of that white area overhanging, so I'm just going to trim that down. Lovely. I'm just going to place that aside. Now I'm going to grab a piece of white cardstock here, and I'm going to use 3 of the inks that came in the kit. I'm going to use, this is the Passion Flower, and I'm just using one of my ink blending tools. Now I used the ink blending tool that had blue already on the ink pad, and so when I added it to my cardstock, you could see it turn blue. By no means is that purple. So later on I ended up redoing it. But I did the same thing with the mulled wine, and then, well, actually this is the red royal, and then I did mulled wine. So I have 3 little splotches of color. I have a heart die that's in my stash, and I'm going to cut out hearts, 3 different color hearts with it. So, but I wanted to add a little bit more to those little hearts, and so this is a black acrylic ink. I'm going to add a little bit to an acrylic block here, and then add some water, and then just using my paintbrush I'm going to thin it out a little bit, and then we're going to do a little splattering. I'm going to splatter those hearts with some black drops. Just always gives a little something. I'm also going to grab the panel that we had cut out in the very beginning, and I'm going to add some splatters to that as well, just so it kind of all flows nicely together. Now I did splatter it at an angle, at a diagonal, going from the top right to the bottom left. Okay, now we need a sentiment, so I have a piece of black cardstock here. I'm just going to use my anti-static powder tool and go over that black cardstock there. For this sentiment, I'm going to use the word Sending Love. It's nice because you can create your own. So I chose Sending Love. I'm just going to grab my Versamark ink, and we're going to stamp that directly on that little piece of black cardstock there. I'm going to be using some Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White embossing powder for this sentiment. So I'm just going to add it, and then I'm going to go ahead and melt it. And there's our sentiment. Okay, I think the little splatters are dry, so here's where I took my little heart die, and I'm going to cut out 3 hearts. Okay, there they are. And you can see I changed the blue to the purple there. Now I grab my panel and then my little decorative element, and so I'm just going to take some foam tape and pop that up. And then the little extra pieces of foam tape I'm going to add behind the hearts and pop those up as well. And then I decided to add the sentiment to the last heart there. Let's remove the backing off of this here, and we're going to place it to the left of our panel. I'm using the grid lines on my mat to help keep it straight. And then we're going to add a heart in the middle. The mold raspberry can go on the bottom. And then the red royal heart is where I'm going to remove that. I added a piece of foam tape behind here. I'm going to remove that and then use my tape runner and then go ahead and adhere my sentiment to the heart. And then I'll just take a piece of foam, or I'm going to fishtail the end, and then I'll take a piece of foam tape and pop that whole thing up. I did add an extra piece on the very end of the sentiment so it all lays flush. And there we go. I'm going to flip this over, add some foam tape behind this panel, and for my card base for this card I'm going to use an A2 size black card base. Now for bells and whistles, I decided to add 3 of the very pale pink iridescent sequins in the sequin mix, 1 on each of the hearts. And that's it for that card. Okay, now we're going to move along. Now I have a stitched scallop edged die here from MFT. Now I'm going to cut out a panel. Now the size of this panel is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Okay, and then I took that and die and I placed that in the center of the panel and ran it all through my Big Shot machine all together. Now this die does come with an outline die that will cut the entire thing out, but I chose just to keep it on the panel. And I think this is what they're calling the paper layering die, because all the elements stay intact, but they lift, creating like a layered look. It's really, really pretty. So next I'm going to take that corner die and I cut out 4 corners. This is so pretty. And I'm going to place 1 on each of the corners. Now the sides matched up pretty well, but they did overlap on the very top and bottom. But I didn't mind it because it kind of reminded me of lace and it looked really pretty. So I'm just adding some glue behind those. And I'm adding it just up to the stitched line on this scalloped panel here. And the outcome was really pretty. I think it looked so much like lace. And actually when I finished I thought, well, this would make a really pretty wedding invitation. But I really like the outcome. So there you can see how pretty it looks. The white on white just really looks elegant. Okay. Now I'm kind of just keep popping out the center pieces in that word and. I know there's a technical term for it, but I don't know it, so I'm going to keep calling it an and. Okay. Okay. Now to finish off the sentiment, I'm stamping the you and the me with the passion flower ink. It's real pretty purple. I'm going to do it again because I kind of got heavy-handed a little bit. And then I'm just taking my scissors. I'm going to cut them out, turn them into little squares. I'm going to add some foam tape behind them, and then I'm going to kind of tuck them under that and sign. I'm placing the me on the very bottom and then the you on the top, so it says you and me, and I'm just kind of tucking them under there. I think the purple and the white really make it look very pretty and elegant. I kept wanting to add more and more, but in the end I kept taking it away. I thought the white looked so pretty. Okay, now this is my card base. This is standard A2 size top folding card base. Now I'm going to take a piece of the specialty cardstock, real pretty pearly color, and I'm going to trim out a panel. And that's going to go to the left, directly on my card base. Oh no, to the right, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to add my panel. I'm just going to pop that up with some foam tape. Now I went all the way around the word and then I placed it right in the center. Now to give this a little bit of dimension, I'm doubling up on my foam tape and sticking them in the larger open areas on that and sign. Just to keep it popped up a little bit. And the layers in it are really pretty. I don't think the camera is doing it very well, that's my buddy. She came to visit. Her name's Princess. She's a little bit of a pill, but she's a beautiful little pill. Okay. For little bells and whistles for this card, I did decide to go in with some Nuvo crystal drops. These are actually silver lining, real soft gray, kind of a pearlish look, and I added a few here and there. But that's it for that card. Very simple, but very, very elegant. Now for our final card for part 1, I'm going to cut out a panel using the pink specialty cardstock that came in the kit. Now this panel is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4. And using the heart die, I cut out the heart. Now I'm going to save the centerpiece of the heart for another card later on, but I just wanted the outline. I did end up taking that heart and cut out 3 more of the white hearts, and I punched them out, and I actually layered all 3 together, creating like a chipboard effect. But I set that aside, and then I used an embossing folder in my stash and embossed that pearl cardstock. I wanted to give that a little bit of texture. Now for the background of my heart, I'm taking a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use the embossing powder. So I'm just going to cover the entire thing with my Versamark ink and then add the embossing powder and heat set that entire background. That I did trim it down, and then just using my glue, I'm going to adhere that to behind my heart there. That way my heart will have a place to rest on. Okay, I think that looks great. Now just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, I'm going to add my real thick heart here. I think it adds a lot of dimension. And actually, if you had a spray glue, the spray glue would actually work really well. I had actually bought a spray glue from the dollar store, and boy, that was not very good stuff. So I suggest a really good spray adhesive. I haven't bought one before, but I thought it would be messy, but maybe I'll try it out one time. Okay, now I thought I needed a little bit of color since there was a lot of pinks going on, so I'm taking some peeled paint Distress Oxide ink, and I added it to a piece of white cardstock. I'm adding a little bit of water just to give it the pattern a little bit of texture. And then in my stash, I have a leaf die. I'm going to cut out 3 leaves, 3 green leaves. And I thought green and pink look really pretty together. This one lifted up, so I'm just adding a little bit more glue. This is where that spray glue I think would come in really handy, because it was a little bit of a task layering 3 of those together, but the outcome was worth it. I think the layer, it looks so pretty. Okay, I trimmed down my leaves, and just using my glue, I'm going to add 3 leaves to the center of my heart here. And then the pink ribbon that the stamps came wrapped up in, I'm going to grab that, and I'm just going to tie a little bow. For this card, I didn't use any sentiment. I thought it would be nice to have one that could be a thank you card or a feel better card or even a universal card. So no sentiment for this one. I think it was just so elegant and so pretty. But I'm just trimming down my little bow here. Using a glue dot, I'm going to adhere it to the center. Well, kind of. I really didn't, the more I looked at it, the more off-centered it was. I didn't really get it centered. But I didn't want to peel up my bow because I was afraid I was going to lift up my white heart layers. But I thought it'd be really fun to add some sequins. I just added the rose-colored sequins that were in the mix, and they really looked like little pretty rosebuds around those leaves. So I added 4 of them, and then to fill in those holes, I'm adding some Nuvo Simply White crystal drops to the center of the sequins, and they really look like real pretty soft little rosettes. And so that completes that card. Very simple and easy. Well, I guess it wasn't really simple. It was a little bit of a task poking out all those dies, but the outcome was so worth it. I think they turned out gorgeous. Well, here's a quick look at all 5 cards I made for part 1. I hope this inspires you and gives you some ideas on what to do with the kit. It was a beautiful Valentine's Day themed kit, and I really had fun. Stay tuned for part 2. I'll be making that pretty soon. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment below. And also, there's a little bell down below in the description area. If you click on that bell, every time I post a video, it will be delivered to your inbox automatically. So if you might want to do that. Also, have a fantastic day, guys, and we will see you again for part 2. Bye-bye.